Welcome to Her Subconscious Blueprint, your no BS space for subconscious healing, bold breakthroughs, and manifestations. I'm Jen Boyd, hypnotherapist, mindset coach, and your new healing hype girl. Today, we're talking about something that will meet you right where you are, especially if you've been doing all the inner work, saying the affirmations, doing the visualizations, but still feel stuck or like some things aren't moving as fast as you hoped. We're talking about letting go, about surrender, about what happens when you finally stop trying to control the how, the when, and the outcome, and instead let something bigger, God, the universe, whatever word feels right to you, take the lead. This conversation is for anyone who has ever felt the weight of trying to hold it all together. For the planners, the doers, the fixers, the ones who say, I trust the process, but deep down are still secretly trying to micromanage it. And it's also for the dreamers and the ones who have been waiting for a sign that maybe it's not about doing more. Maybe it's about trusting more. Let's start here. Control makes us feel safe. The human brain is wired to crave certainty, to seek out patterns, to predict outcomes. It believes that if we can just anticipate what's coming, we can protect ourselves from disappointment or rejection or pain. But the truth is, control is the opposite of trust. When we try to control the outcome, we are telling our subconscious, I don't believe it's safe to let go. And when we send that signal of fear or lack or doubt, we block the very thing we're trying to call in. You've probably heard the phrase before, what you resist persists. The more we grip something, the tighter we hang on, the more resistance we create. Think about water. If you try to hold it tightly in your hands, it just slips right through your fingers. But when you cup your hands loosely, the water stays. That's exactly how energy works. When you chase it, it runs. When you relax and you trust, it flows. So let's talk about what's really happening when you try to control. On a subconscious level, your brain is trying to protect you. It's saying, I've been hurt before when I didn't know the outcome. Uncertainty feels dangerous. That's what your amygdala, the part of your brain that detects threat, it's doing its job. But your subconscious doesn't know the difference between uncertainty and danger. It reacts the same way. That's why you feel anxious when you can't see how things will unfold. Your nervous system goes into fight or flight. Your body tightens, your thoughts race, and you start reaching for control. But the paradox is that control actually pulls you out of alignment. Manifestation isn't about control. It's about coherence. It's about your thoughts, emotions, and energy aligning with the frequency of what you want. When you're controlling, you're broadcasting fear. But when you're trusting, you're broadcasting abundance, alignment, flow, and ease. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. And here's the truth. When you try to force something, you create resistance. But when you release it, you open space for something better than you imagined. The universe is always responding to your frequency, not in your words. You can say, I trust, but if your energy says, I'm scared it won't happen, that's what gets mirrored back to you. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you sit on the couch and wait for miracles. Letting go means releasing attachment to the outcome. It means showing up for what's aligned and letting the universe handle the details. It's about saying this or better. It's active trust. It's saying, I will do my part, but I don't need to control every step along the way. You let go of how you think it should happen. I call this sacred surrender. It's the deep exhale where you say, I don't know how this will unfold, but I trust that it's unfolding for me. I trust that God or the universe or higher power knows better than me, this or something better. When you truly let go, you feel it in your body. There's a softness, a peace. You stop obsessing over the timeline. You stop needing signs to prove it's working. You start living as if it already has. Let's look at what controlling actually looks like. You check your phone 100 times after sending a message, waiting for a response. You replay conversations trying to figure out what someone meant. You look for validations from signs and numbers and synchronicities. But underneath it all, you're still searching for certainty. You tell yourself you're trusting, but you're secretly keeping score. You look at your bank account every morning hoping for a change. You ask, why hasn't it happened yet? And you can feel that tension in your body every time you think about it and wonder why it hasn't happened. That's control. That's fear disguised as planning. That's your subconscious saying, I don't trust I'm safe in the unknown. And let me tell you from experience, the trust in the unknowing is when everything starts to shift and happen, and it is easier than you even imagined and better. Now, let's look at what surrender feels like. You stop overanalyzing, you take inspired action, and then you let it breathe. You allow space between the doing and the receiving. You talk about what you want as though it's already yours, not in a performative way, but in a peaceful, certain way. You don't need proof because you just know. And because you know, your energy is calm, open, and magnetic. That's the space where miracles happen. That's the frequency of allowing. The reason letting go works, both energetically and scientifically, is because your brain and your body communicate through frequency. When you release control, your brain shifts from a high alert beta wave into more relaxed alpha and theta state. Those are the same states you enter into meditation or hypnosis or just as you're falling asleep. That's the state where the subconscious is more open to new ideas. The critical mind is shut off. In these moments of calm, your body releases dopamine and serotonin. These chemicals tell your system we're safe. And when you feel safe, you become receptive. I want to share some science behind manifestation for a second, because once you understand what physics is quietly showing us about how reality actually works, it becomes a lot easier to trust the process. One of the most fascinating discoveries in quantum physics is something called entanglement. There was this experiment done with what scientists call twin photons. Basically, they created two tiny particles of light that were born together, kind of like energetic twins. And what they found was that no matter how far apart these two particles were, whether they were across the lab or on opposite sides of the world, when something happened to one, the other reacted instantly. It didn't matter how much space separated them. They were still connected by something invisible. That experiment proved that at the deepest level, everything in the universe is connected. Energy doesn't break. There is no true separation. What happens to one thing influences the other instantly. Now, Here's where it gets even more mind-blowing. In another version of this study, scientists tried to figure out which pattern one of the particles took. They started measuring, labeling, and trying to track every little detail. But the moment they did that, the moment they tried to control or define it, the magic disappeared. The beautiful wave pattern that showed endless possibilities, it just collapsed. But when they stopped trying to measure it, when they simply let it be, the wave patterns came back. So in simpler terms, the moment they tried to know everything, they limited what could happen. But when they allowed the mystery, when they didn't interfere, infinite possibilities stayed open. And isn't that exactly what happens in our lives? The second we start trying to control every detail, the how, the when, the timeline, the steps, we collapse our own magic. We close off all possibilities that could have surprised us. But when we trust, when we let go, when we stop needing to know every single outcome and just take the next aligned step, things start to flow again. That's not just a metaphor. That's actually science showing us how energy really works. It's proof that knowledge, attention, and intention all shape our reality. When we stop trying to micromanage the universe and instead learn and lean into trust, we keep the field of possibilities open. Sometimes not knowing is the magic. The less we try to force clarity or control the outcome, the more room we give the universe to create something even better than we could have even planned or imagined. Now, here's the soul-stretching piece. Entanglement suggests that the distinction we draw between observer and observed starts to blur. In the famous double slit experience, when particles are observed or when we try to fix the how or the which path to take, the interference of the pattern changes. We literally influence the outcome by how we observe it. There's a study in quantum physics called the observer effect. What the research shows is this: when a particle is being watched or measured, it behaves differently than when it isn't being observed. Like I just talked about in the twin photon experiment, this was published in Science Daily in 1998. Researchers at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel found that the more a quantum system was watched, the more the behavior changed, as though the act of observing actually collapsed possibilities into a specific outcome. In simpler terms, when a particle has many possibilities and many ways it could go, just looking at it changed which way it does go. Now, let me bring this into our world. Think of your dreams, your goals, your heart's desire. When you're constantly watching the timeline, checking the way it's supposed to appear, trying to force how and when it happens, you're acting like the observer in that quantum test. Your gaze, your energy, your expectations become the measurement. They narrow the range of possibilities. Instead of staying open to the infinite ways this could show up, you pick one, and that's it. That's where your field will collapse. That's why it's so important to let go of the control and stay open. And when you relax, when you trust, when you stop trying to monitor the path, you stop being the controlling observer. You allow the field to stay wide open. The outcome doesn't have to look exactly like your plan. It can be better, more unexpected. So this isn't just physics jargon. It's a mirror for your life. The universe hears how you're watching. It feels the energy behind it. The observer effect is showing you that your attention matters. Your expectations matter. Your letting go matters. When you stop micromanaging how it happens and when it happens, you give space for possibilities you didn't even imagine. And that's where the magic lives. So, what if your thoughts, feelings, and expectations are acting like the measurement? What if your nervous system, your belief system, your energetic expectations is like the observer setting the quote unquote which path? When you're gripping so tightly, trying to force the outcome, micromanaging the how and the when, your system is acting as the measuring device that collapses the possibilities into limited forms. You're saying this or that, in this time, in this way, and the field respects that. But when you surrender, when you open your hands and breathe out and say, I trust, I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know it's on its way. You stop collapsing possibilities. You stop dictating the path. You allow the infinite potential to remain open. And when potentials remain open, something extraordinary begins to happen. The field responds to your frequency. The experiments on the entanglement tell us that separation is an illusion. What you do in one corner, i.e., your thoughts, your energy, is correlated with what happens elsewhere. The mirror effect of the universe, it isn't just a metaphor. It's woven into the fabric of existence. And beyond entanglement, there are experiments that look at how information or observation changes the outcome, even when the measuring device is delayed or when what seems logically impossible happens. The delayed choice quantum eraser. These experiments show that the decisions made after the fact seem to retroactively affect what was already measured. The boundary between cause and effect becomes deeply wired. So when we apply this to manifestation, controlling the how, the when, the outcome is equivalent to revealing which path. The information before the universe has even had a chance to allow the field of infinite possibilities to collapse into the most favorable version of you. You might say that you're giving directions, but energetically, you're closing the doors on openings that you can't even see yet. Doors that are being built for you. People being rearranged and synchronicities happening. And instead, you're telling the field, it must go this way now, in this time, in this form, and that constrains you. When instead you stay aligned, you become the observer who doesn't dictate the path, but holds a steady vibration of, I trust what's unfolding. You become the radiant center of coherence, so the field around you can organize in your favor. The entangled nature of reality means your inner state is reflected outward. Your frequency becomes the signal. The universe becomes your mirror. This, again, is not just a metaphor. This is science. It's hinting there's more than just our five senses at work. The neuroscientific side of your work with subconscious reprogramming, it aligns beautifully. When you shift your internal state, your beliefs, your expectations, your feelings, you shift your external reality. Because your system is no longer locked in to the old signal of control, fear, and contraction. Your nervous system relaxes. Your brain moves into a more receptive state. You signal possibilities instead of constraint. So if you've been wondering why you visualize, you do the affirmations, you meditate, and it still feels like the universe hasn't shown up, well, maybe it's because you're still trying to steer the ship when the ship already knows the ocean. The quantum experiments remind us that we're part of the connected system and that we don't need to force the map. We need to trust the map maker. The experimenter doesn't always choose the variable. Sometimes the variable chooses to reveal itself when you stop interfering. In your life, this means loosening the grip on the timeline, on the method, on the outcome, and instead anchoring in the truth. You already are what you want. The field knows it's yours. There's a version of you already out there that has exactly what you want. The entangled connection is already in place. Your task is to match the frequency, to hold the vibration, and then release. Let the universe mirror it back. It's humbling. It's liberating. It's the art of surrender in scientific terms. And as you lean into it, you begin to trust the invisible. You begin to feel safe in the unknown. And you begin to live in the space where the miracles become natural. Manifestation happens in receptivity, not resistance. When your nervous system believes it's safe to receive, the universe starts responding in ways that look like synchronicities, divine timing, and effortless alignment. So, how do we get there? How do we actually let go when everything in us wants to hold on and control so badly? Your first step is awareness. You can't release what you're not aware of. Start noticing when you're gripping. Start noticing the tightness in your chest, the shallow breathing, the racing thoughts. Just noticing begins to dissolve the pattern, because awareness is higher conscious observing the subconscious in action. The second step is to pause. When you feel yourself tightening, just stop. Take a breath in through your nose and hold it, and exhale slowly through your mouth. That single breath tells your nervous system, we're okay. It interrupts the loop of fear and brings you back into presence. The third step is reframing. Instead of saying, it's not happening, try, it's unfolding in ways I can't see yet. And instead of saying, why isn't it showing up? Say, I'm becoming the version of myself who's ready for it. That single reframe shifts you from victim energy to creator energy. And I talked about that in one of my very early episodes. If you want to go back and listen on how you can start shifting out of the victim mindset into the creator mindset. The fourth step, I talk about this all the time, it's gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to rewire the subconscious, because it tells your mind that what you desire is already here. When you feel grateful in advance, you're teaching your brain to recognize abundance as being familiar. And remember, our mind loves familiarity. The fifth step is release. Each night, say something like, everything meant for me is finding me easily and effortlessly in divine timing. You're training your subconscious that your job is alignment, not control. I promise you, when you practice these 5 simple steps consistently, something will start to shift. You begin to notice small moments where you can choose trust over control. You realize that every delay, every detour, every rejection, every closed doors, it's part of divine redirection and protection. And the more you lean into that, the more peace you feel. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about aligning up. It's about remembering that you're not manifesting from scarcity. You're manifesting from sufficiency. You're not waiting for something outside of you to make you whole. You're remembering that you already are. The moment you let go is often the moment everything starts to move. Because you're no longer vibrating at desperation or lack. You've shifted into trust, which is the ultimate magnet for what you desire. When you try to control, you're in the energy of, I don't have. When you surrender, you're in the energy of, I already do. And the universe always matches that. Now, if you're listening and thinking, okay, Jen, but how do I know if I'm really letting go? Oh, you'll know. You'll know by how you feel. Control feels tense. Surrender feels calm. Control feels urgent. Surrender feels peaceful. Control says, I need to make this happen or else. Surrender says, it's already happening. Letting go, it doesn't mean you stop showing up for your dreams. It means you move from inspiration, not desperation. You take action because it feels aligned, not because you're afraid to miss your chance. And let me tell you something. If it's meant for you, it will not pass you by. That's when life starts meeting you halfway. You'll see it in small ways at first. The email that comes through at the very perfect time. The opportunity that shows up after you stopped worrying about it. The person you meet when you finally decide to take a break. That's divine orchestration. That's the universe saying, see, you can relax. It's evidence. Letting go is an act of faith. And if you've been listening for a while, we've also done an episode of faith over fear. It's the moment you stop saying, I'll believe it when I see it, and you start saying, I'll see it when I believe it. It's realizing that divine timing isn't punishment, it's protection. The delay isn't denial, it's preparation. The universe will never hand you something you're not energetically ready to hold. Sometimes what you're waiting for is actually waiting for you to become the version who can sustain it. So when it hasn't arrived yet, instead of asking, why not yet? Ask, who am I becoming while I wait? Because that version of you, the one who trusts, the one that surrenders, who knows she's the one who receives. Letting go is practice. It's not a one-time thing. It's something you do daily, moment by moment, choice by choice. Here's a simple way to start integrating it into your life. Every morning, write down what you're holding on to, the worries, the outcome, the timeline. Then say out loud, I release this. Show me what's for my highest good. That's your surrender practice. Throughout the day, when you feel yourself tightening, just simply place your hand on your heart and breathe. Say to yourself, it's safe to not know. That one sentence is medicine for your nervous system. When you visualize your future, don't visualize from a place of needing it. Visualize from a place of already being it. Feel the peace, the joy, the gratitude now. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So that feeling becomes your new normal. Practice trust in small ways. Let someone else make plans for you. Take the scenic route. Smile at the delays and say, this must be divine timing. When you can trust the little things, you strengthen your faith in the big things. The more you practice this, the more you'll feel a shift inside of you. You'll stop needing everything to go according to plan. You'll start noticing how often life surprises you when you let it in. You'll realize that the things you used to chase, now they just come to you. That's the moment that you fully understand that manifestation was never about forcing something to happen. It's about aligning with who you really are. The version of you who already has it, who already knows she's worthy, who already trusts that it's done. When you let go, you make room for grace. You open yourself to possibilities beyond your logic. You stop living from survival and start living from soul. So if you're in a season where it feels like nothing is happening, maybe it's because everything's happening behind the scenes. Maybe the timing isn't off. Maybe it's divine. Maybe you're being asked to soften. Maybe this is the part of your story where you learn to trust again. You don't have to force what's already meant for you. You just have to stay open long enough to receive it. Let go of the how, let go of the when, and anchor into the knowing that it's already yours, babe. Say to yourself, I release the need to control how my blessings and miracles come. I trust that everything meant for me is already on its way. I choose peace over pressure. I choose flow over force. Say it until your body believes it. Say it until it feels like home. Because when trust becomes familiar, control loses its grip. You are allowed to stop fighting with life. You are allowed to rest in the knowing that what's meant for you won't miss you. You are allowed to be surprised by how easily things unfold when you stop gripping so tightly. That's the art of surrender. That's how manifestation truly works. Not through control, but through coherence. Not through force, but through flow. So babe, take a deep breath with me right now. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Let everything you've been trying to hold on to soften. Feel your body relax. Feel your heart open. That is what letting go feels like. It's peace, it's presence, and it's trust. I am so full of love and gratitude that I get to share my story with you. This is Her Subconscious Blueprint, where we don't just chase the dreams, we become them. And remember, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. So go out and be that version today. Much love and gratitude. I will see you next time.